today I meet you Dr. Shahri. So for today, we are going to discuss about our case study. So before we start with our presentation, let me just introduce all of my group members. So we have Siti Nurhanisa Adia, Nur Atira, Muhammad Akid, Nur Shahibah Maisara, Muhammad Farhan, and also me myself, Nur Akida. Okay, so without wasting any time, I would like to invite the first presenter for today to present about his or her point.
Let's start introduction. Okay, Colette was a CEO in International Education Center. The organization offers opportunities for people to learn about various cultures and to develop an appreciation of their position as global citizens. Before this, Colette was a Cambodian-born refugee. Came to the United States with her parents during the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot regimes from 1975 to 1979. She was too passionate working internationally as her experience motivated her. Colette's expectation and working style were also influenced by it. As the effect, their organization had a problem with the environment that Colette performed to them and dragged down the employees' motivation and passionate to work. Sociologists and public policy makers refer to the way society is changing as cultural change. The outcome is the development of new social structures as well as new cultural traits, behavioral patterns, and social standards in the society. The company's dedication to change is reflected in its culture. They aim to alter their attitudes, actions, routines, and procedures. The objective is to improve the working environment. An organization may experience cultural change for a variety of reasons. Many cultural change are a result of a movement's overall impact. Next, we move to question A. We will talk about cultural value dimension in organization. Okay, first, low uncertainty avoidance refers to uncertainty and ambiguity were normal and necessary, and they were free to take risks while appreciating creativity and individuality. Next, height uncertainty avoidance refers to any departure that is deemed disruptive and undesirable. They also tend to take fewer chances, seek consensus, and steer clear of conflicts. Move to the next presenter.
Okay, thank you, Akil. I will move on to culture value dimension by Colette. First of all, I want to tell a little bit about Colette. Colette was born in Cambodia. Before this, she and her family fled to the United States as refugees. Growing up inspired her motivation for international work. In this case, the culture value dimension that Colette shows is power distance. What is power distance? Power distance refers to the relationship between authority and subordinate that depends on how the latter react to the former. Power distance is divided into two: high power distance and low power distance. High power distance refers to being very differential to figures of authority and generally accept an unequal distribution of power. Meanwhile, for low power distance refers to subordinates who are free to question or challenge authority and expect to participate in decision. So, in this case, Colette is more to high power distance. What situations show that Colette is someone who is in high power distance? First, Colette wants all employees to show loyalty, obedience, and respect to her. Second, the employees were restrained from freely expressing their ideas, opinions, and emotions, especially unpleasant ones. That's all from me.
Thank you, Atira. So, question B. The form of bias that affect collab perception about her employees during the meeting. Bias is a disproportionate risk in favor of or against an idea or item, frequently in a close-minded, biased or unfair manner known as bias. Biases can be acquired or picked up through time. Bias for against an individual, a group, or a belief can arise. A bias is a systematic mistake in science and engineering. Okay, first, in group bias. In group bias is a type of bias in which collab and employees display preference in their decision. Those who have been admitted into the manager in circle receive particular positive evaluation, but those who have not. Of course, the level of this impact can vary greatly, and it might not be true that a negative attitude is expressed toward individuals who are not part of the group. For example, many people are affected by unconscious bias since they are unaware of where their thinking come from. Second, cultural bias. Cultural bias, also known as racial bias, happen when people see other culture as abnormal, extreme value, or international essential because they are different from their own. This bias, also known as implicit social cognition, assign an individual further an action to a large group of people. As the employees were happy with Han, they were never happy with Colette because Colette was a goal-oriented person and had an achievement-focused attitude. So move to next presenter, Hanisa.
Okay, thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. So I will proceed to the next bias that collapse employee perform. So as I can see, decline bias was also performed by collapse employee when they always compare the way collapse managed the organization and has managed it before. Decline bias refers to the tendency to compare the past to the present, which leads to the conclusion that things are worse or are getting worse in comparison to the past simply because change is occur. Declinism can make us feel pretty pessimistic about the current situation. We will unconsciously seek facts and evidence that support it. For example, when collapse employees said that Han was never done like this, and she always made time to talk to us. This situation just sees that they cannot move on with Han as their CEO. And last but not least, the staff exhibit stereotypical bias while Collab is their CEO. So stereotyping is the act of passing judgment on someone based on one perception of the group to which that person belongs. This is due to collapse gender. So and many gender-related barriers and bias have diminished over time. Gender stereotypes have historically hampered women's career advancement. They dare to be disrespectful to Colette by arriving late and failing to focus on meeting because she was a woman. This type of bias without a doubt influence Colette's perception. So all of the bias forms made by Colette's staff majorly downgrade their motivation and performance on the job as they didn't get the excitement of doing it. Emotion, particularly negative ones, have a powerful influence on our decision making. They make rational and logical decision difficult. To combat the bias, we can remind ourselves that nostalgia distorts our view of the past. And negative bias distorts our view of the past. Our view of the present. To alter our perception of the present, we can seek out and record positive statistics and stories that occur in order to remind ourselves that things aren't always as bad as they appear. Okay, move to the next presenter. One more, Farhan. Operation C.
Thank you, Hansa. Okay, for the question C, the first point that I recommend is finding a coach or mentor. Colette can find a coach or mentor to help her in the process of culture situation she is facing in the workplace. It is helpful for some people to talk or give suggestions while the others prefer to talk to themselves. Since Colette and her employees are experiencing misunderstanding, this way of finding a coach or mentor can to some extent to help them to understand the situation and provide equality between them. In the same way, as peer learning, talking to someone gives her the opportunity to break down her thinking processes. Okay, for the next suggestion, one is being truthful to all the people in the organization. This is an easy rule to follow by Colette and his employees when the change are in the response to challenging circumstance. Change in the question is positive or will result in short-term negative outcomes. However, being honest with employees can also understand their hearts and be able to share opinions in more depth about something that needs to be improved. Not only that, but the honest is also important for the CEO of the company like Colette to present an optimistic front to the employees and do so in a way to recognize potential challenges and weaknesses. Okay, for the next point, we'll get to the next presenter, Atula.
Okay, so thank you Muhammad Farhan for the interesting points just now. Okay, so let's just move on to the next part, which is my points. Okay, so for the third strategies of managing cultural change in an organization is peer learning approach. So what is peer learning approach? Peer learning approach is a learning strategies that should be done by all of the staff and all of the people in the company, but actually it should be done by the leader itself, which is in this case study, it should be done by collab. Okay, so it is an approach who have difficulty, whoever who have difficulty with the cultural strategic thinking. For example, like they will get used to their old culture, but then suddenly when the new leader is coming to their company, the leader changed the culture and they have to follow the leader. Okay, and not to forget, communication is an important thing in an organization. So the leader should communicate well with his or her staff. Like in this situation, whenever the leader want to change the culture process, the communication is really important so that all of the staff, they would misunderstood on what they have to do and what they should do or should not do. Okay, so for the next one is manage emotional response. Okay, so actually this one is applicable for both for the leader and also all of the subordinates, since we are all human beings and we all have our own emotions. Okay, so this is proven by the use of emotional intelligence, so that the emotional intelligence can be crucially connected to achieve the successful of leadership. Okay, so what is EI? EI is emotional intelligence, which is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those people around you. Like we have to understand the emotions around people, all of the people in our company. Okay, for example, like just take an example, if the leader is being fierce, it will make their subordinate feel so scared, anxious and emotional during working time, so that when the leader is being too emotional and easily get angry, and then the staff will feel like dissatisfied with the leader itself. Okay, and then last but not least, don't expect the changes in short period of time. Okay, so for this one, Collab, in this case study, Collab cannot expect too much changes in a short time of period. Like for example, if he's coming for January, and then he expect the culture to change in February. So like every changes will take time slowly, but not immediately. So it is because all of the staff there are get used with the old environment, which is on Hans organization, so that when Collab came there and changed everything, it must be hard for them to follow and change the culture. So Collab must have the strategic planning so that he can change the organizational structure, and he also has to admit that not everyone can accept a new habit in an organization or cultural organization. Okay, so for the conclude all in these strategies of organizational culture. Okay, so by using all of those strategies can strengthen the relay and also increase the productivity of the decision making motivation. So with positive environment of work, there will be much more new innovations that can be made. Okay, so last but not least, Collab, not also Collab, but also her staff, all of them must improve in their organizational structure. Okay, I guess that's all from me. Thank you for listening. I will pass it to the next person.
For the probation, we need to understand more about the issues that our employees are facing. Make a decision together can increase the effectiveness of the company, and other than that, an evaluation survey can also be done to review the behavior of the whole staff in the organization. Last but not least, always listen to the expressions or opinions of the employees and don't make a decision of their own basis alone. This session will bring back their determination and enthusiasm among employees to continue to perform the assigned tasks as well. Okay, for the next page, I will give it to Atila.
Okay, so I think that's all from our group. I hope Dr. can understand what we are trying to present. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum and have a nice day.